Welcome to Archery Talk 101 podcast, your guide to better archery skills. We'll bring you the latest tips, tricks, and expert advice, but that's not all. We'll also have interviews with top archers and industry professionals and reviews of the latest gear and equipment and much more. Hi, my name is Roy Canterbury. I'm going to be host today on Archery Talk 101 with our special guest on the line. We're going to talk some archery today, and we're going to have a lot of fun. Ellen, introduce yourself and tell our audience a little something about you. You're muted, Ellen.
I don't know how that happened. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was like, wait a minute, I couldn't hear you. Oh, you're muted. Yeah, it happens.
No, I guess once it recorded, it swapped over, or I may have done it at some point. But my name is Alen Marsee. I've shot single string archery for probably 11 or 12 years now. I fell in love with it, at the Howard Hill Traditional Archery event, which I help put on each year with my good pal Terry Harris, and that was later on, but that's where it all came to me, as far as the love of archery goes.
Yeah, it's like what got you started in archery?
So I was kind of a punk, when I was younger. Just I played music and done all this other good stuff, and I went through a divorce, and shortly after that divorce, well, not shortly, it was maybe a year or so after that divorce, I met my wife now. Her name's Amanda, and her dad was that's where I met her parents. Actually, at first, was at that event. It's the first time I ever met them, and I was like, "Oh, this is pretty cool," and I kind of showed a little interest in it, and that was it. But one day I get home from work, and Amanda says, Dad's coming by. I was like, yeah. And I go, all right, cool. She said, he's got you something. And I was like, what do you mean? She goes, I don't know. You'll find out. So he bought me $120 Samick Sage, 45 pound, 45 at 28, take down, beginner bow. And I got out there, and I started shooting a couple, and then, I went to a couple events and things, and was like, oh, there's, I want to be good at this. So I just I fell in love with it from the first pull, and just kept pushing and trucking,
Yeah, it's amazing how everybody gets started. Everybody's got a different story, and they're all unique and kind of interesting. And does your wife shoot as well?
Oh yeah, for sure. Amanda, she shoots. She's a killer, She's a beast. She shoots. Actually, the whole family shoots or has shot in the past. Once they get to a certain point, they stop thinking mom and dad's cool, so they'd rather just stay at home and play, video games or on their cell phone or whatever. But
yeah. Yeah, sometimes the kids will just really take off and drive the parents. It's like, okay, I want to do this, and
right.
do it with me.
Right. I know. When we first got started, everybody had a bow. We've accumulated bows from just about every shoot here in the Southeast, and you have to forgive me. I'm not really sure where you're located there, Roy.
I'm in Nebraska.
Nebraska. Okay, cool, awesome. But yeah, so we travel all over the Southeast. Mississippi, Tennessee, Florida. Actually, you have to go to Georgia, but Tennessee is a big hot spot down here, and we've been all over the place, accumulated bows, and everybody had a bow. And now I've got walls of bows and things stacked up everywhere, and nobody wants to shoot it but me, so I've got to figure it out.
Yeah. Well, you do kind of collect some archery equipment, and I know after I close my store, I have a whole lot of extra stuff that I had. I've got rests and sights that are brand new, still in original packages, and when I close it, I kept all the archery stuff because I sold off the fishing stuff because I just wanted fishing. So I basically just kept all my archery stuff, and so I have supplies all over the place. And
if ever anybody needs anything, you're the go-to guy, Roy.
right? Yeah, it may not be the newest and best stuff, but hey, it works, and um, you know, I know how to set them up because I've been setting them up that way with those type of equipment for years.
Right. Um, so you had a store. What? So this is a little bit of a role reversal for me. So, typically in the past we had the Break and Trad podcast, which at this point has kind of has been dissolved a little bit, and currently working on a few other things. A Black Warrior traditional. I'm going to say show, but it's going to be show / gear type situation. So I'm typically used to being the one asking the questions, and it's kind of hard for me to sit here and answer them. But I'm curious about your store, man.
Yeah, I had it. I was working, and I decided, what do the rich people have? They own a business. It's like, okay, right idea, wrong business, but so I bought. So it was called the Tackle Box, and they sold, fishing bait and tackle and equipment. And the guy that I bought it from had archery equipment in there. He's a PSE dealer, and so I went down to PSE and spent a week down there at their school. And so I sold PSE and Browning and their Martin. I also was a Martin dealer
Oh
as
yeah,
well. And
I
I
got
couldn't
you.
be a Matthews dealer because there was one too close, and it's kind of hard to sell Matthews and other bows. You got to focus on one main one, and I focused on PSE. Excellent equipment, and I liked them. I shot them well, and so I mostly just sold them. And then
Yeah.
I also had muzzleloader stuff in there, and I didn't really muzzle load at the time. I had never even shot one, and so the guys come in, and I just started asking. It's like, hey, what equipment do you need? I'll stock what you need. And so I
Huh.
started stocking stuff that is, hey, this is what I use. Okay, ordered some in, kept it on hand. You know,
Right.
I
Right.
didn't know what they needed, so they knew. So I just started stocking that, and I spent many years doing martial arts, so I added martial arts equipment in the store.
Oh yeah, that's
So
cool, man.
I had one of the few stores that sold martial arts equipment at that time. You either had to go to wherever you was taking lessons from and buy whatever they had, or come to me because I sold,
Hmm.
all the other brands, except I didn't sell the brands that the master that I was taken from. I didn't sell his brand. I stayed away from that just so I'm not competing against him. But all had his school
Right.
name on it. Mine were just plain.
Right.
And you get different people coming in, and I had one group come in, and for every Halloween they always dressed up different theme. This one year was martial arts. So one had come in, and I said, where are you going? Where you taking lessons at? And they say, oh, it's for a party. They have a theme. Next one come in, well, where do you guys? No, it's for a party. So by the time about the third or fourth one, I said, okay, we already have one of these, one of these, one of these. You need to buy this. So everybody had something different. you know,
Well,
it's like
I'm
you got to
that.
ask them the questions.
Yeah, and it's not far. It's not like it's not two different aspects, because a lot of people consider archery to be a type of martial art. So there you go. You got archer gear and then martial art gear all in the same place.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
Well, and then a lot of the things, because I'd studied martial arts for so long, I studied Hapkido. And that's a lot of joint locks, arm bars, throws. We also did kicks and punches.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff in there. And I've been doing that before I learned how to shoot back tension release.
Hmm.
So of course, naturally, once I learned that and figured that out, I incorporate the two together into how I teach. Because one of
Okay.
the things that you learn is in martial arts, you want to be efficient with your power. When it goes
Right.
straight to target. And if you go off in an angle, especially if you're trying to break a board, you just hurt your hand. If you go through it, it don't hurt. If you don't go
Right.
through it, it hurts. So I incorporated all that. And then my teaching style is I'm going to tell you how I do it. I'm going to tell you what I think is the best way, and I'm going to tell you why I think it's the best. Because if I don't tell you
Got you.
why, it's like, well, why do that? Because I said so. It's not an answer.
Right.
And
Right.
then once we do that, now then we're going to modify it to fit you, because everybody's going to shoot differently. You know,
Right.
same basics there, but there's going to be some little variation. And you know, so I've taught hundreds of people how to shoot, and you know, it's fun. You know, especially when you take somebody that's never shot like you when you started. You know, you shot your first bow, and the first arrow went off, and it's like, cool.
Oh man, this is forever.
Right. You know, it's so fun when you see somebody do that. I've had people come in where he was buying a bow, looking at it, and I ask her a couple times, because last times it was the guy buying the bow. Other times it's the other way around. But uh,
Right.
this one lady come in and said, you know, you want to shoot? It's like, no. It's like, well, we can set one up. Just shoot once.
All it takes is one, man. That's all it
You couldn't
takes.
shoot once. It's like, oh, this is fun. Can I shoot it again? Of course you can. You can shoot more
Yep.
times. And
Right.
now then they figured out how much fun it was. And uh, you know, I've had others come in, you know, where the ladies wanting to get a bow, and I had one lady come in. I've told this story a couple times, but he had shot. I don't remember if he was shooting compounds or recurves, but he had been shooting for a while. She was just starting out. She come into me, and so I'm in there teaching her how to shoot, because every time I sold a bow, I'm going to teach you how to shoot. Last thing I do is, oh, here,
Right.
how's that feel? Okay, good. You know, I bought
Right.
my first bow, which ended up being 2.5 inches longer than my draw length and 3 inches longer than I shoot now. And the lady handed it to me and I said, how's that feel? I didn't know any better. I said, okay,
Yeah.
32-inch draw
Sounds
length.
good.
I'm 29 and a half. You know, so I'm drawing clear back here, you know, almost to my ear.
Right.
And, you know, now I found out when I went through the classes at 29 and a half is what my draw length is, but I shoot 29. That extra half inch means that wintertime, I don't hit my coat.
Hmm. Yeah.
So that extra half inch, and it just felt, you know, so much better. And getting used to it though, oh man, you know, it was a Friday class, and Saturday and Sunday was the final one. Went in for the Friday class. This is your 29 and a half inch. My bow was set for 32. If you want to continue, your bow has to be at 29 and a half inches. Otherwise, you can't continue. So I'm
Hmm.
scrambling around getting, you know, I can't get shorter modules because it was too old a one. It's, you know, it wasn't like the new ones now. You just change a module, rotate it. So I'm
Yeah.
finding different strings, and I finally got it down to my 29 and a half. And I was like, oh, this feels too short. This feels too short. And I was like, oh, okay. After a while, feels good. I'm gonna shorten it up a little bit more. know, and it just, you just have to go through that, and other people don't understand. And I've taken, and guys come in to the shop grouping, oh, I don't know, maybe 6 inches or so at 20 yards. And
Hmm.
I'll look at it. First thing, their draw link's too long. So we shorten that up, teach them how to shoot. And this one guy, I spent about 45 minutes with him, and he was now grouping in about 2-inch groups, and just 45 minutes of teaching.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Uh,
proper technique is going to do it.
yeah. I mean, yeah, for me, I had good teachers, you know. I would say some of the best teachers really, because there was they pushed me a little bit, you know. I mean, it wasn't 45 minutes, you know. It wasn't even 24 hours. It was more like over a couple period, you know, a couple years or something like that. But I found for myself it was for me, you know, muscle memory is a big thing, you know,
Right.
trying to recreate and do the, you know, do the same thing over and over and over again until I don't have to think about it anymore. Once I see a good solid shot, I just try to maintain in that position, you know, and follow through.
Yeah, and that's one thing we learn in martial arts as well is uh, you have to repeat that technique hundreds of times before you stop thinking about it and just do it.
Right.
You get where you're used to moving your hands around, and you drop something, just automatically go down and reach and wait for it to hit your hand. You know, most people drop something, they reach for it. You know, after
Right.
he's like, oh, hey, look, fall in your hand. You know, you just let it drop to you. You know, you go to where it's going to be, not where it's at, because by the time you get there, it's gone. And some of the things, you know, that I've learned in that over the 20 years of doing Hapkido, I've able to take in and help in the teaching because, like anything else, as you teach something, you actually get better at it when you run into problems. It's like,
Right.
oh, so we finally figure out a problem. And then it's like, oh, okay, so the next person has that problem. Let's try this. You might have spent
Gotcha.
an hour trying to figure out the problem was that one person, but the next person, you're a genius because you knew right away what, yeah.
And sometimes, I mean, just this is a story my wife and I were shooting. We were headed to Pennsylvania for the 22 Lancaster Classic. So we knew that, like I said, we both have shot traditionally forever. At that point, probably 10 or 11 years, at that point, shot traditionally off the shelf, knock, finger on the knock, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So we're trying to convert because we all know that a lot of the barebow guys, they didn't really have a traditional category, but they convert to barebow, and barebow itself is a little, there's a they get an up on you a little bit. They get it's a little easier. I mean, I know there's technique, don't get me wrong, it's not easy by any way, but for example, like if you're shooting traditionally off the shelf knock up and you're shooting 20 yards and you have 3-inch gap to center, right? So you take that gap out and barebow where you're constantly aiming point on just due to a crawl. So we knew that they were going to have, kind of an advantage on us. And we just started to convert over to elevated rest, a plunger aspect and rocking a crawl in order to get our point on. Well, I started getting it figured out, got it situated, and my wife was struggling, and she didn't talk to me for 3 days because we couldn't figure out. It was so frustrating on both parts where we couldn't figure out why her arrow wouldn't do the same thing as my arrow would do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we finally figured out that plunger tension has a big part in that, like a big part in flight. And it's crazy. Just one turn on that plunger can affect arrow flight by 3 inches, as far as left and right goes in a 20 yard aspect or an 18-meter aspect, right? So we finally got it figured out, and she come in and we did all right, but it was our first one, and we hope to go back this year and make it happen.
Yeah, it's amazing how much just a little tweak can make a difference. And when you set up a bow, when I had my shop, I'd go in and I had a super tune, and I don't know, I'd check, the horizontal and vertical, but I also check the third axis on your sights. My jig would allow me to point it down, check your level, make sure it was still on, because sometimes you have to shim them, because if you're shooting up or downhill, like in a 3D, you're shooting downhill, if your bubble's off, you use your bubble and you turn it. And what a lot of people don't understand is if you have a little cant in your bow and you have your pins straight up and down, if you can them now, then as you move up, if you're pointing to the right, as you move up, you're shooting more to the right.
Right.
Because you got that little cant in your bow. So if you're going to naturally cant it, you got to set your pins up so that it still stays straight. And
oh yeah,
there's a lot to, setting those up. And one way to find out is take and shoot at your 20-yard range, shoot your 20-yard pin, shoot your 30-yard, your 40, your 50, your 60, how many pins you have. And if they don't go straight up, there's something wrong. Either your sight is off or you're not holding level or something.
Canted slightly.
Yeah. And, if you're just shooting, like off the shelf, a lot of the traditional ones kind of bend over and holds it onto the shelf or onto the hand, but they're not, gap shooting. And I shoot instinctively when I shoot my recurve. I just target, draw back, and shoot. I don't look at the arrows, look at the bow. I don't reference anything, because as soon as I start doing that, I might as well put sights on it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
See, well, I mean, I'm gonna play devil's advocate for a second, okay? As far as gap shooting goes, now, or gap shooting in regards to, because I still feel traditionally that's we're still on the same playing field as far as what people consider instinctive to gap shooting, uh, so it's, I feel like it's the same thing, and I take a lot of judgment on that, I guess,
Yeah,
because a lot of people say, instinctively, I just burn a hole in the target and sling an arrow and hope that it hits. Well, so to me, I think about, well, how many times did you do that? You know what I mean? And
yeah,
say you didn't pace off at 20 yards, okay? So you just kind of randomly paced off. Now to me, that would make a little more sense. But traditionally, if we're hunting or we're taking shots, a lot of the times we're shooting within a 20-yard range. So we want to be
right,
proficient in 20 yards, right? So we kind of step off 20 yards and then we move forward 10, 15, that kind of thing. But like in an instinctive aspect, you've shot that 20-yard distance and you say, okay, well, I burn a hole, boom. All right, well, now I'm off. Now what am I going to do different? And it may not be like a mental calculation of gap, say my
right,
gap's 3 inches off center, but your body has tuned itself to hold that bow at a different height.
right,
You're
yeah,
in order to get to that point on. And I feel like they're kind of the same for me, as far as like me, I'm all analytical. I like to pick at just about everything. It gets me in trouble a lot of times, so
yeah,
I'll I draw a straight line. I'm like, why am I off? I adjust, I tweak, trying to get everything. I get my gap at 20 yards. And then I might take a little crap from some others. It's like, the whole sight thing, which I think we're all in the same boat, to be honest with you. It's just how we go about it.
right. Well, and I mostly use my recurve for bow fishing.
Oh yeah.
So, so in bow fishing, have you ever did any bow fishing?
Reflective light. Yeah.
Yeah, well, the problem you have in bow fishing is the fish is there and it's gone. So if I have to try and find a gap and try and figure it all out, the fish is gone. It's one of those, you see the fish,
Right.
draw back, shoot. You don't have
That's
time.
right.
Now, if I
Right.
was to, I mostly shoot compound. So, um,
Okay.
and if I pick up my recurve, I'm shooting instinctively. If I pick up my compound, I can't shoot it instinctively. It's just one of those things that it's a different weapon. It's completely different. I'm drawn back. I'm getting my anchor point. I got my
Right.
kisser button, my peep. I'm looking for my pins, and go through the
Right.
whole process and shoot. Where with the recurve, I'm not going. I still go through the same process. Come back to
Hmm.
anchor point, and follow through. But I don't.
Right.
I don't look for sights because in bow fishing, you haven't got time. So
I
sometimes
could
you
see
have a
that.
little bit of time, but if
Yeah.
I was to go like you and probably start going in some tournaments using the recurve, I'd probably have to figure out something else to do. But that's
Yeah.
not what I use
Well,
my
no,
archery for. So,
don't get me wrong. There's a lot of instinctive shooters that are, they're on point, man. And I really don't understand. To me, I guess if I wanted to be sufficient or proficient in an instinctive aspect, I would be out there every day, all day long, trying to figure out what's a good spot. But there's I know people that wear it out and say that they shoot instinctively. I just can't do it. Ty Phillips. I don't know if you know Ty Phillips.
yeah,
Um, but he's an instinctive shooter. He's a killer shot. We know people all over who can wear it out. I just can't figure it out. I've got to know that at 35 yards, I'm a foot and a half over the target. You know what I mean? I got to know
yeah.
that in order to be on point. But I can't shoot a compound bow. I've tried, and it doesn't, like, none of it makes sense to me. I can't make it happen. I've tried to shoot. I actually had a good buddy of mine. His name's Corey Crawford. He shoots compound, and he was like, "Hey, come over and shoot some with me." I got out there, and he was like, "You want to shoot this?" I said, "I'll give it a shot." I was anchored down. He was like, "Yeah, just anchor back and find your sights. Look through your peep, find your pin, and just put your pin where it needs to go." Dude, I shot clean into the dirt, lost his arrow, everything. Just I couldn't figure it out. I was like, "No, man, this is all you. You can have that."
No, and that's why there's so many different options. And there are some that will take the recurve, the compound bow, and no sights on it, just shoot it instinctively. A lot
I've
of your
heard of
bow
that
settings,
too.
yeah, because it gives you a little more let off. You don't have, with your recurves and long bows, as you draw back, it gets harder and harder and harder, and you can't really.
Right.
Well, at the compound, you can draw back and you can hold, and now you can go through a little bit different process. You don't have to hold all that weight. That's the advantage of it. And a lot of the new
Right.
bow fishing setups are actually compounds. They're a lot of them are compounds, but me, that's just me. I've been shooting for 50 years. So,
Really?
I started back in the 60s with a recurve, wood arrows, and fletching. It was feathers. And
Yeah, there you
at
go.
that point, our option was wood or fiberglass for the bow, recurve or longbow, and wood or wood arrows, and feathers for fletching. That was the option.
Hmm.
You didn't have all these veins that come in later. You didn't have the compound.
Right.
They weren't developed. And I think the first compound that was made, it wasn't really available, but in the late 60s, I think 67 when it first came in. But you didn't get until the mid 70s when you really had compounds that were really readily available that you could get. So,
Hmm.
I've been shooting for quite a while and got my first compound. And my first compound I shot was actually my brother's, and it was the Bear Whitetail 2.
Oh yeah.
Bunch of cables, and you move different pins to whether you wanted 65% let off or 50% let off, and there's a single string on it and all these steel cables running around different pulleys. And
I got you. Well, you do much hunting, Roy?
yeah, mostly deer. I don't do much turkey, although
Yeah.
I probably should start because we have a lot of turkeys around here where I'm at. We got a flock that roams around here not too far from my house, about 3 dozen of them in it.
Man. Well, I don't know what y'all seasons are, but I gotta wait till spring in order to get out there for the turkey. I'm looking
Yeah,
forward to this fall though.
we have a
I'm
spring and
getting
a fall season.
Oh yeah? When's y'all's fall season start?
It runs right along time with the deer season in September. I forget exactly when it starts, but the
Mhm.
archery starts in March and goes through April, and shotgun starts in or goes through May, I think, and shotgun starts in April.
Okay.
So it's fairly early.
Cool.
But the early season, you can't shoot hens. You only shoot bearded turkeys,
Oh yeah.
which is generally going to be a tom, but that you can't really tell if it has a beard and it's a hen. Well, it's legal game because
Right.
it's a bearded turkey. And
Well, they just said bearded turkey.
yeah, well, you can't say hen or tom because you don't, or Jake, you don't know. If it
Yeah.
don't have a beard, you just assume it's a hen.
Right. Well, no, like I said, I'm looking forward to the fall. I'm getting geared up right now, starting to do some prep work and scouting and things like that, and getting situated. But yeah,
Yeah, it's going to be another good season. I've got an area that we're going to try and get them to start moving around in daytime a little bit more. They're pretty much all
oh
nocturnal.
yeah,
They're pretty much
yeah. What
nocturnal in
was
that area.
I run into that last year? I mean, early season, October 15th. That's when bow season starts here in the state of Alabama, and you know, early season I don't know, I passed on a couple doe, and uh, then about a quarter of the way into the season, I started getting hits on the camera, and it was like midnight, 2 o'clock. Everything went dark where I was at. I couldn't figure it out. It done, and everybody was saying the same thing. It's like all the deer went nocturnal last year. About a quarter of the way in the season, couldn't
Yeah,
figure it out.
that's what I was getting on the cameras we had up in our area. We were getting them at 10, 11, 12, 1, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. I had one area that they were consistently coming in probably a half hour before shooting time,
Hmm.
but we don't have a good spot for a tree right there. So
Right.
they were coming through then. And so come rifle season, I set up on top of the hill, figuring maybe they'd come through. and I could see them because that maybe they'd hang around and nothing came through. And
Hmm.
so then we left the cameras up, and then come February, I think it was, when I pulled the cameras, one day I found them in the morning and night. There was about 3 or 4 of them come through one area that we know is a real good popular area because we see them down
Yeah.
there a lot. But they were during the day, in the morning during the light and at night during the light. But every other one of them was in the middle of the night.
Middle of the night. I know I started getting a little frustrated towards the end of the season. I think I seen one spike roll through, and it was right at dusk, but he was too far away. He was at 60 yards. I was like, "Come on in, come on in." He never did. He just turned around and walked away, and I had to come down. I was like, "All right, I'm done. I'm going to the house."
Yeah.
So
Well, I had a small buck and a bit larger buck on the camera, running throughout the season. And then I did see a third one coming that February when I pulled the cameras. Look at them. I need to get the cameras back out, start monitoring what they're doing now, and try and put some stuff out to get them go during the day. But it's kind of hard to hunt them when they're always at night.
yeah, you can't do it, man. You can't do it.
Not one thing you can't hunt at night is deer.
That's right. Unless you got a really big lot, but no, I'm just anyhow.
Yeah.
Well, I don't mean to, cut it short or anything, but I got a little bit I need to take care of. Are we good, Roy?
Oh yeah, it's whatever time you have, and it's been great talking with you. And you get your new podcast thing going, let me know. We'll get on and we'll talk about that,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
and we'll promote that as well. And
I'm not really sure. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not really sure how it's going to play out yet. One thing that creates a lot of fatigue is a weekly dedicated podcast, and I don't want to I guess what I'm trying to go with now is I want it to be a little more laid back and both oriented in both the competitive aspect of archery and the traditional and the hunting aspect of archery. And I'm not really sure how that's going to play out or if it's even going to come to fruition, but I'm working on it, man. As soon as we get it all situated, you're more than welcome. You'll be one of my first if I can get it.
yeah,
Get it
that'd
together.
be good. Yeah, I put out a podcast twice a week. On the podcast comes out Mondays and Fridays, and then the video comes out on Tuesdays and Saturday nights. And then, of course, those in the Arch Talk 101 Facebook group, they get to communicate with it live. So they get it, when we record it. And
I
it's
got you.
fun. I get to talk to archers all over the world. And they're just this
Well,
last week, I talked to Austria and Germany
oh yeah,
and Serbia and Croatia and Canada, and I got a guy
that's
from
awesome.
Scotland going to be on here pretty soon, and South Africa and Canada, and of course a lot of people from the United States.
Right. That's awesome, man. I look for. I'm going to go back and try to pick up on some of it. Is it a video aspect or is it both audio aspect or?
Well, on the podcast, it's just audio. That'd be like
Okay.
Spotify. It's also available on Audible. You can go on to
All
Audible.
right.
You can listen to it free there.
Cool.
As a thing you can do. And then if you want to watch the video inside the Arch Talk 101 Facebook group, you get to watch the video. So you'll see exactly what we're recording here, as well as on my YouTube channel. That will be a video of this. And just the only thing is there'll be a little thumbnail at the beginning and then, the splash screens at the end. And then if you go out to archtalk101.com, you can also access the YouTube video from there as well as other things too that I use out there to promote. So, it's all over. And those that have businesses, nice thing about that, we talk to a business and they're more than welcome to the video to promote their business.
Cool.
And we promote it to whatever we can do to help archers out.
Yeah, right.
Even if it's not an archery related business, we're still helping archers out because a lot of us archers, we do other things. We do guns. Some of us, we do have businesses, and hey, if we can help you out some way to do it so that you can get more time in the field shooting, let's go for it.
Right. Absolutely. Everybody helping everybody out, man.
Yeah. Well, that's what archery does. And archers do
That's
that. They
right.
help each other out one way or another.
All right. You're absolutely right. Also, you mind if I give a shout out to our sponsor,
Oh,
my
no, go ahead.
sponsor? Yeah, if you guys are interested in the traditional world and all things traditional, or even barebow to a certain extent, Three Rivers Archery is a good place to go. They sponsor both my wife and I as sponsored team shooters, and we really enjoy shooting for those guys. Really nice people, and they'll help you out anytime you guys get a chance.
Yeah, that you hear a lot of good things about Three Rivers Archery. And
Yeah,
right now I have enough supplies. I don't really need to buy much. So
right.
I don't really buy much, but that's kind of the place to go for a lot of your equipment. And they do support, the archery community really well.
Absolutely. And Jonathan Karch, man, I've shook hands with him and spoke with him and hung out with him several times, and he's a real down to earth guy, and he's willing to talk hunting and archery whenever you get the opportunity, and he'll help anybody out. Trust me. So just go online. I guess it's threeriversarchery.com, and you can get stuff, whatever you need to get started, whatever you need to keep going.
Yeah, that's good. We need to help out anybody that's helping the archers out, help them out.
Right.
Well, any parting thoughts before we go?
No, man. Yeah, I just want to say I appreciate you, having me on the show. It's really cool, and I enjoy doing this kind of thing, and I enjoy talking archery all the time. And it was, like I said, it was a change of pace for me, but I really appreciate you having me on. Um, I'm gonna promote this show, and I apologize, to be completely honest. My head's all over the place at all times, and I don't really get an opportunity to listen to many podcasts other than maybe the Rogan show every once in a while. But yeah, no, I'll check it out, and I'll push 101, and try to make things happen here.
Yeah. Yeah. It's anything to help each other out. That's what we're here for. And it's just so much fun talking to archers all over the world. And hey, if you have a unique story, you're welcome to come on. The only requirement is we start talking archery. Where we end
Right,
doesn't
exactly.
matter.
Right.
Well,
I
yeah,
like
hey, go ahead.
go. No, I was just gonna say no. I mean, I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun talking with you, and I'm sure we'll connect up again another time. And you're welcome back on the podcast. If you got something else you want to talk about or promote, hey, let's get on and chat some more.
Okay, sounds good to me, man.
Yeah. My name is Roy Canterbury, and I've been your host today on Arch Talk 101. And we're going to have a lot of fun on these podcasts and support the archery community. And we'll see you on the next one.